My name is Javed Iqbal, and I have murdered 100 innocent children. I hate this world, and I feel no remorse for what I've done. I have no regrets, and I am ready to die. These were the chilling words spoken by Javed Iqbal, a name that will forever be associated with terror and brutality. His story is not just about a criminal. It's a grim reminder that evil can lurk in any corner of society, even in places we believe to be safe. Javed Iqbal, a man whose name became synonymous with one of the worst crimes in history, left an indelible mark on the psyche of Pakistan and the world. The sheer scale and nature of his actions horrified people everywhere. Yet, despite his notoriety, his tale remains largely unknown to many, especially in the younger generations. Many assume that are a foreign phenomenon, but Javed Iqbal crimes proved otherwise, reminding the world that such horrors can arise anywhere, regardless of geography. This is the story of Javed Iqbal, a man who meticulously planned and carried out some of the most horrific crimes ever witnessed. A story that will make your run cold. A disturbing beginning. Javed Iqbal's story begins in Lahore, Pakistan, where he was born in 1956 to a wealthy family. His father, Muhammad Ali Mughal, was a prominent businessman, and Javed was one of 8 siblings. Growing up, Javed lived a privileged life, receiving an education and eventually running a business, which his father had started. From the outside, it seemed like Javed had everything he needed to lead a successful and fulfilling life. However, behind this facade lay a dark individual. As he grew older, Javed developed a reputation for being eccentric and unpredictable. He was known to be withdrawn and distant, never forming close relationships. Yet, no one could have predicted the kind of would later emerge from him. By the time he reached his mid-20s, Javed's life took a dark turn, one that would lead him down a path of unimaginable false accusation and the catalyst for revenge. The year was 1985, and Javed, then 20s, the start of a reign of terror. By 1995, Javed Iqbal had made up his mind he would carry out his horrific plan. Using his family's wealth, which he had inherited after his father's death, he opened a video game arcade in a bustling area of Lahore. During this time, arcade games were incredibly popular among children, and his shop quickly became a hotspot for young boys between the ages of 6 and 16. However, this arcade was merely a trap. It was the first step in Javed's calculated plan to lure his victims. Javed employed a sinister tactic. He would deliberately place a 100 rupee note on the floor, and hide, watching from the shadows to see which child would pick it up. When a boy picked up the note, Javed would confront him, accusing him of theft and dragging him to a back room in the arcade. Once there, he would child, inflicting unimaginable abuse. But this was only the beginning of his months. After abusing the child, Javed would take the victim back to his house, a place that would become the final destination for many innocent lives. There, he committed even more horrific acts of abuse. When he was done, Javed would the child with a steel wire, ending their life. However, his atrocities didn't stop there. After killing the child, he would dismember the body and the remains of his crimes. A calculated and methodical killer. Over the course of 4 years, Javed Iqbal murdered 100 children using the same brutal method, all while maintaining a facade of normalcy. What made him even more dangerous was his intelligence and ability to plan his crimes meticulously. He didn't go out looking for victims every day, nor did he commit his crimes in a haphazard manner. Instead, Javed was methodical in his approach, often placing fake advertisements in local newspapers, offering jobs or opportunities to young boys. When he received responses from boys who fit his preferences, he would lure them to his house, where they would meet their tragic end. But this was only the beginning of his monstrous acts. After abusing the child, Javed would take the victim back to his house, a place that would become the final destination for many innocent lives. There, he committed even more horrific acts of abuse. When he was done, Javed would strangle the child with a steel wire, ending their life. However, his atrocities didn't stop there. After killing the child, he would dismember the body and dissolve the remains in hydrochloric acid. Once the body had dissolved, he would pour the liquid remains into a nearby drain, eliminating any trace of his crimes. The unimaginable confession. It wasn't until December 1999 that the world learned the full extent of Javed Iqbal's crimes. In a move that shocked the entire nation, Javed sent a letter to a leading Lahore newspaper confessing to the murder of 100 boys. In the letter, he described in graphic detail how he had lured, abused, and killed the children. He even claimed that he had taken photographs of each child before killing them and had kept their clothes and shoes as mementos of his gruesome acts. The news of Javed's confession sent shockwaves throughout Pakistan. The families of missing children rushed to his house, hoping to find any trace of their lost loved ones. Many found the shoes and clothes of their children, confirming their worst fears. The grief and devastation these families felt were beyond words. It was as if the ground had been pulled from beneath them. Their children, who had been missing for years, were never coming back. In his confession, Javed displayed a chilling lack of remorse. He arrogantly claimed that he had stopped at 100 murders because that was the vow he had made, but he could have killed many more if he had wanted to. He even boasted about the precision with which he had carried out his crimes, leaving no evidence behind. The capture and trial of Javed Iqbal. Javed Iqbal's confession set off a nationwide manhunt. The police, now fully aware of the extent of his crimes, mobilized all their resources to capture him. However, Javed proved to be elusive. For weeks, he evaded capture, hiding in various locations across Lahore. His disappearance only added to the growing sense of fear and outrage in the country. After a month-long search, Javed Iqbal finally turned himself in to the police in January 2000. His capture brought some relief to the grieving families, but the pain and trauma they had endured could never be erased. Javed was put on trial, and the court proceedings became a media sensation. The nation followed the case closely, with everyone demanding justice for the innocent lives he had taken. During the trial, Javed showed no signs of remorse, coldly recounted his crimes, providing chilling details about how he had carried out each murder. His lack of emotion and his blatant arrogance only served to further enrage the public. The verdict, a fitting punishment for a monster. In March 2000, Javed Iqbal was found guilty of the murder of 100 children. The judge, in delivering the sentence, declared that Javed should be strangled 100 times, just as he had strangled his victims. His body was to be cut into 100 pieces, and those pieces were to be acid, exactly as he had done to the children he murdered. It was a sentence designed to reflect the horrors of his crimes and to ensure that he would never be forgotten. However, Javed's story did not end with the execution of his sentence. On October 8, 2001, before his sentence could be carried out, Javed Iqbal was found dead in his prison cell, hanging from the ceiling. Authorities quickly ruled his death a suicide, but many believed that he had been killed by a fellow.